Hi, this is Fam Elected Ghost, and we have Mollie Jay on the line, right?
Yes, what's up?
Yeah, we finally got this going.
I know this is a cool little app. I didn't know about this. I'll probably use this in the future.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 2 years. I've been podcasting. I used to do a different app, and then now I'm on this particular app, and I've been interviewing people for like different bands for 2 years, and also actors and artists. So it's been pretty
Very
cool.
cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so you're in Los Angeles now, right?
Yes, indeed. I've been here for about a year and a half now.
So you're on your Spotify. I'm just reading it off so people can get a little bio. It says
Sure.
Mollie Jay is a singer and rapper that you originally came from Maryland, but now you're in Los Angeles.
Now
And
I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah.
yeah, you have a soulful voice and you have a knack for spitting lyrical rhymes. And you had a
Yes.
single, "Shine," that hit number 21 on the Billboard dance chart. So that's pretty cool. And you've done pop and EDM. You got
Yes.
what you call your genre is like urban pop, which is like maybe a mixture of EDM and hip hop and rap.
So yeah, Urban Pop is actually the producer that I first started working with when I started recording when I was like 20. He kind of coined that. So basically, essentially, yeah, it's kind of like pop, R&B and hip hop mixed.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of genre crossing. Yeah,
Yes. I mean, ultimately, um, yeah, I don't know the best way to describe it. It's almost like pop melodies, but with a soulful tone and then some hip hop
yeah,
beats, kind
yeah,
of,
yeah.
you
You
know?
said yeah, your influences are Justin Timberlake, Eminem, and Lauryn Hill. So that's a wide range.
Yes. Justin Timberlake, I would say now Justin likes to consider himself R&B and Justin is like my biggest, but he really is kind of urban pop. That would
Yeah,
really be sort
yeah.
of what he does.
And
Yeah.
Lauryn Hill is like that's like neo soul. So
Neo soul.
yeah,
Mhm.
so you got your neo soul. So yeah, I'm gonna get through the questions. So I think I sent them to you, but we typically ask these questions. So when did you first get into music? Like what age?
I got into music. I mean, I was doing, since I was a kid, the typical story. It's like I'm writing songs in the shower and I'm locking myself in my room and listening to music. So always, but really when I started taking it seriously was middle school, high school, middle school. Your voice changes. Even as a woman, your voice starts to change when you're going through puberty.
Hmm.
So I didn't know that I had a singing voice. I loved music and writing little songs and stuff, but I didn't actually develop a singing voice until I was probably 13, 14 years old.
Wow. So
I'm
when did you decide that you had a talent for music and you wanted to actually write your own? Because there's a lot of musicians, they become classical musicians or studio musicians, but they don't actually write their own material. So when did you think that you wanted to actually do that?
always actually. I was into writing before I was into like singing.
Awesome.
So that the creation of the actual music is really actually the funnest part for me. Like funner than recording. Performing is also a lot of fun for me too. I'm a very animated person, but yeah, oof. I mean, I'm obviously out here in Los Angeles, and I'm not only interested in the artist side of things. I'm very interested in writing for other artists too. So that's just kind of always been it for me.
So when you write, do you use like digital audio workstation? Do you use like pianos, guitars? Do you use instruments, or you primarily use like the what people are doing now, like with the Kai, MPCs and there's all kinds of different ways of producing. I was wondering what we get into this with a lot of the artists we talk to are musicians that play instruments. So maybe you can describe your process.
For sure. So I'm actually primarily a top line writer. So I don't do a whole lot of producing. That's something I want to get into later down the line. But I'm primarily like I write the melody, the harmonies, the
Hmm.
lyrics, and sometimes I'll use piano. Sometimes I use guitar. Sometimes I just use my head. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I usually work with another producer who has, hey, I have this beat and I've tried a few people and they can't really come up with what I want or something that I think would work. So I usually work with another producer.
So you don't put into anything into like Pro Tools or you know?
No, I mean, I have. So, I have done a little bit of that before, but like I said, I'm primarily, a
Oh,
top line writer.
so you actually go to a studio, or you go to your producer's studio, or do you send files to them? How do you do that? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so usually I'll go to a studio. I'm really picky about engineers because there's a huge difference, and other musicians will know this. There's a difference between an engineer who can record a rapper and then an engineer who can record a singer. It's much
Or,
harder.
yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into it. You can record a rap song in 30 minutes,
Whereas a
singing.
lot of people, yeah, they just use their like home studios.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people are like, Molly, you should really invest in a home studio. And I'm like, yes, yes, and yes. But at the same time, it's like
Yeah.
that takes a lot of money and a lot of energy. And if I can work with somebody who's already a an engineer, which there are a lot of them out here in LA,
Yeah.
who I think the engineer is one of the most underrated people in the business. I mean, they can bring a lot to a song.
Oh yeah. I have my own home studio, so I'm an electronic musician. I've got like Moogs and recorders and all kinds of gear. And like I just got a contract for one of my songs, and it finally went to a recording engineer. And I've been mastering my own stuff for years because I'm an indie guy. But the art of having a recording engineer does really change, because that's their business, that's their art, and it's an art in itself. And so
Mm-hmm.
there is a difference. But a lot of guys like us, they're people who are musicians, they're electronic musicians. We have a lot, all these like electronic synths. I have all these old Moogs and stuff, and I like to record them because I know what I want to hear. And
Right.
since I'm a keyboardist, I kind of know what I want. And over the 20 years, I've bought the equipment to capture what I want. But an engineer can always make it better. And
Well,
so
yeah, and it sounds like you're sort of an engineer in your own right. You've put a lot into that. I just haven't put a lot of time into learning that, and I think maybe down the line when I have more time and more resources, possibly I will.
yeah, because I know what's going on today is there's a lot of going forward and backward. Because there's a lot of people using analog synthesizers to bring sounds that were from like the 80s into their
Mm.
mixes and stuff, which actually come from not digital equipment. It's like old analog equipment. And there's a lot
Yeah,
of
you're
bands
right.
bringing that in. That's why I have my Moogs and my Prophets and stuff that's from the new wave era. Stuff that Bowie used on like Low and Heroes and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting because there's also going forward, you got stuff like the Akai MPCs. You've got people using Pro Tools, people using plugins. So there's a mixture. It's like you can't be a purist about anything. There's a reason to use samples. There's a reason to use plugins, but there's also a reason to go back and use like a real Hammond organ, or
Yeah.
use a Moog if it calls for a real Fender, or a Strat. There's a reason why you would actually use a real bass on a
Yeah.
song. But yeah, so that's interesting. So the question that I asked about home recording or traditional, you're a traditional recording studio top line artist.
Yes.
So do you play live a lot? Do you do shows?
Yes. Yeah. In the new year, I've only done one or two, but usually I do a lot. Yeah, and I have a band, especially if it's at like a really nice venue, then I definitely bring my band. If it's just kind of a last minute, sometimes people will call me for last minute hip hop shows,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be like, sure, I'll come through and rock the mic. But yeah, if I'm doing, I don't know if you know about any of like the popular places out here where, a lot of big artists have played at the Mint, Whiskey A Go
Yeah,
Go.
Whiskey A Go Go, I know that.
Yeah, so I played there with my band not too long ago, and we had a blast. It's definitely I wouldn't say newer, but maybe it's being brought to the forefront now, where you're seeing a lot of hip hop acts have their bands with them all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I know there's a lot of people that still use like a DJ with a CDJ with a Pioneer or something, but I'm an old school. I'm 50 years old. Like when I
Hmm.
used to play back in the day, I was in punk bands, and I was like, got that CBGB kind of thing. Like I want to go and kind of be like the Clash,
Yeah,
or be like the Replacements, or who's to do. I was like real hardcore into that kind of thing, being like Joy Division or something. And like I want to play with real instruments. And it's interesting that you see a lot of hip hop artists actually have full bands backing them up. and that, I think that's really cool because you know, there was a point where sometimes people were saying, well, you don't really need a band, but it's interesting that you're doing that because it goes either way. I see a lot of electronic musicians that say, oh, all I need is a CDJ, and then you got other guys that they're like got stacks of Moogs like Keith Emerson.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you from firsthand experience, you know, I spent probably, I didn't have the money really for a band for the first 5, 6 years of my career. And having a band makes a huge difference. I mean, people still love it. You know, if you're good enough,
Mhm.
if you're, you know, good at what you're doing, people will love it. But having a band brings a whole, people pay way more attention. They're way more into it.
Yeah.
It's way more engaging. It's fun to interact with other people on the stage. I just don't think you're ever going to be able to fully replace that.
No,
You know?
because I think there's a problem. Like I was kind of, not to put people down, but I was watching some EDM musicians, you know, and they just kind of push the button and jump around, and some of the dance crowd that's into that doesn't seem to know the difference between somebody actually playing a keyboard and somebody like running a sequence. And
Yeah, you
I,
gotta be gotta be on drugs to enjoy
yeah,
it.
I mean, there's a certain audience that doesn't care because they just want to hear the same thing, but then there's an audience that would want to see like the Allman Brothers, that wants to see somebody play the instrument. You know, they wants to see a Pearl Jam. They want to see somebody actually play the guitar, or actually really, you know, not just playing over a track. And there's a lot of capability that you can do. And there's a merging today where you got Akai, he's got all kinds of new systems where you can actually engage on that kind of level and not just run your sequence. You can actually play other things on top of it.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things you can do so you can be more interactive. But having a real drummer, and so with your band, what's the setup when you actually play live?
So we have, this is so interesting actually. I you know, so when the band started coming back with hip hop acts, now I'm a singer as well. I actually sing for a lot of my set. But I do rap for some of it as well. And I started seeing that the rappers that were having bands, they would start off with just a drummer, and
Hmm.
then they'd add a bassist. Drummer and bassist is very popular at a
Yeah,
lot of shows. So yeah, as far as the band goes, I've been having a drummer, a bassist, and then I added a guitar,
cool.
which is cool. And this, man, some of these musicians, you know, like I said, I'm a top line writer at heart. I'm a melodist.
Hmm.
I'm not particularly gifted with instruments, and I mean, sounds like you probably are. Some of these guys, I mean, I pulled a guitarist. He hadn't even heard half the songs, and he just rocked out the whole
Yeah, with
time.
these like professional musicians, like studio musicians, or just guys who have been around, they can play by ear. You know, I've been playing for years. There's lots of guys that they hear your stuff, and then boom, they can get it. You know, like Motown guys, like the Funk Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They could just hear something, and it was like boom, they got it. You know, is like there's some guys that's what they can do. You know, and I
It's
think that's the
amazing.
thing that some of the people who are using the CDJs tend to forget, the kind of beauty of musicianship, which is cool that you
Oh yeah.
appreciate that, because there's some people today that, you know, I had some guy that, you know, I have this big stack of electronic music instruments, and he told me, oh, why don't you just come to the club and do it on a CDJ? I'm like, the whole point of what I perform is me playing on that Moog, and you know, I can't just play it on the CDJ. It doesn't work because I am a performer. I mean, I play my keyboards, have my keyboards. So he just couldn't get
Mm-hmm.
the fact that, oh, you're an electronic musician that actually plays a keyboard.
I mean, I went to music school. Actually, I graduated with a degree in popular music, and so I, you know, I had to do all the, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
notating and piano proficiency, and like I had to do all the
Mm-hmm.
musicianship stuff, uh, everything. And I get frustrated a little bit with people who think that. And like I said, I'm a huge hip hop head. I love
Yeah,
hip
yeah.
hop, but a lot of these rappers, they're not
No, they're not.
musicians. They're
Yeah, it's
artists.
different.
And people are saying that they're musicians. And I'm like, listen, it's not a bad thing if you're not a musician, but you do need to know that,
Yeah.
like, some of these guys aren't musicians. Some of these people, even who make beats, aren't
No,
musicians.
a lot of them are very good at construction on a grid. You know, they can go on the grid and they can do the beat. But if you actually handed them a Moog, or handed them an actual like real, like you know, instrument like a Hammond organ or any of the stuff, they can't do it. And so
Right.
it's a difference. It's like, okay, you're a producer and you like music and you can produce music and maybe you produce some really high-end music. But when it comes to like, guys like I elevate to like Stevie Wonder, or the Funk Brothers or, Hendrix, or like these are the people I looked up to. So I wanted to try to play and practice to get good, to be like that, and there's a different mindset from a musician, that understands. And a vocalist, you're a musician, vocalist, your instrument is your voice. And so that there's a lot of work on that. And then some people, they are just poets, and that's not bad. I mean, Bob Dylan doesn't have the perfect singing voice, but he's a great poet. He's a great,
For sure.
He won like a Nobel Prize for his poetry. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he as well, because he can play pretty good guitar. But yeah, it's like, there's a difference between somebody who's like a classical vocalist, like somebody that can do like 5-octave range. There's certain level of musicianship and even vocalists that, you got to respect that,
For sure. And there are, producers, like I would say one of the mainstream producers that is actually a musician would be like Timbaland. Like Timbaland really is a musician. Guy can play, he can do all kinds of. Somebody who I wouldn't say, and this may be for the podcast, is Kanye West actually says that he's not.
Yeah.
That he really play instruments and he can put music together, and I've gotten into plenty of fights about that.
I guess, he has a lot of guys that he actually works with. But yeah, he's more the guy that can get on the grid on an MPC and really run it, kind of, And you got guys like the Bomb Squad. The Bomb Squad, they were like, to me, they were like, the Public Enemy guys. Those guys had some brilliant ideas in production that actually became the way George Martin for the Beatles was a producer, was like a musician. You can use the studio like an instrument. And so I think some people are, maybe Kanye's kind of at that level. He's using the studio as an instrument.
Absolutely.
And so that's a different level. And it's a different place, but it's cool because that music is about all kinds of things. I like to work with jazz guys, like punk rockers, traditional rockers, electronic rockers, hip hop people. I mean, I've worked with all kinds of people. And
using the studio as a musician, that's a good one. That's a good
George
one.
Martin,
as your instrument.
Like George Martin was famous for that with the Beatles, like the fifth Beatle, because he's the one that made Sgt. Pepper the way it was, because he taught Paul and Ringo and all those guys and John. Is like, you can use the studio to do this amazing stuff. And that's why those records sound like they do, because they just said, oh, well, we're not going to put any bar on it. We're like to do everything. We do backward tape looping, all kinds of experimental stuff. And, there's lots of bands that, back in the 70s, it was real popular. Bands like Genesis, like very, bands like Yes.
I'm a huge Genesis.
Yes, progressive rock.
I'm a huge Phil Collins
fan.
He's like
I love Peter Gabriel Genesis too. And Phil Collins great, but I'm a prog rocker when it comes down to it, like the crazy prog rock from Yes, and like I love Phil Collins. Phil Collins was always there. He was the drummer. He just took the lead after Peter Gabriel left. But there was this thing about prog rock,
right?
It's a mixture of classical and rock, and it throws all this strange rock opera, really, key changes and, structures, 20-minute long songs. It's a different world. Not many people are into that as much today, but that's kind of where I got my bones. But
that's sick though. There's nothing like it.
So you sound like you're already collaborating with, like, guys who are rockers, because you've got guitar players and bass players and drummers. So they have been probably in all different types of genres.
Yes, actually. So a guy that I worked with a lot is, this is in a whole nother vein, but a screamer. And we've done a few songs together. There's one of them that's up on my SoundCloud. It's actually a remix of a Drake song called Worst Behavior. And I wrote all the parts for it. And then I can't scream like him, So I grew up, I am 29. And so I grew up in like all the grunge stuff.
Nirvana,
was big. You had,
all those guys.
Nirvana, and then like Linkin Park. That was a whole mixture of. So I love pulling in grunge. I mean, I even tagged it on SoundCloud, even though it's not totally accurate. But I was like, what did I say? Like R&B screamo
Oh,
or
well,
something.
we can
Just
actually
stuff
put
that people.
your Spotify link and your SoundCloud link on this episode if you want people to see that. So
That
yeah,
would be awesome.
I'll
That
go
would be
look for
awesome.
it.
Yeah, because I definitely will promote this episode.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
yeah.
tell me
So
how
what
to do it.
happens is we will send you the links. This goes out to like 12 different podcast platforms. We've got about 12,500 listeners. We've actually got corporate
Nice.
sponsors, so be aware you will hear ads as segments on your podcast. But
For sure.
that's how we
No
pay the
problem.
bills.
Yeah, that's how you
But
got to.
yeah, so this will go out with the Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast, Anchor, Stitcher, Radio Public, Google, many, many more. There's like 12 places that do this right now. We'll send you the most popular ones, but almost any podcast app that you see will have this. And it will actually get published tonight. And we'll send you the Apple and the Stitcher and the Anchor and Radio Public and Spotify links. And then you can share them.
Yes.
We don't charge or anything because we have sponsors. but
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, it's pretty cool. And we hyperlinks only work on Apple for some reason. Spotify doesn't allow you to enable the hyperlinks, but you can see them and then copy them into something. But Apple will have them, and I think Radio Public, the link, the hyperlinks are active, which means if you click on them, they'll go somewhere. But for some reason, Spotify doesn't do that. I don't know why, but they don't want to do it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to promoting it.
Like, what are your thoughts on the future of music and where it's going? Based on our conversation, I kind of have some ideas of what you might say, but yeah.
Man, it's a complicated answer because for a while I was like, man, music is just, going to shit. And sometimes I do think that is true, but like I said, I feel like the hunger for musicianship is coming back as well.
Yeah, totally. What I see going on is like sometimes in popular music, there's been this kind of degradation from the classic period that you could say, if you go to the 50s to the late 70s, you have people really creating like unbelievable art in albums, like Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, the Who doing like Tommy and Quadrophenia, Led Zeppelin doing Led Zeppelin 4. There's this amazing level of capability. You don't really see a lot of modern rock bands being that level. So maybe like Kurt Cobain and Pearl Jam 10, we're at that kind of thing. But you don't see today, like how many of those albums do you see today?
Well, you know what? That's the interesting thing is, and I remember somebody told me, I don't know if it was maybe one of my professors in college, and actually my professor in college, he was the trumpet player on Play That Funky Music, White Boy, and He actually helped write the song. So he's somebody that I really admire. But I'm trying to remember if it was him, and you've probably heard of this cycle, like the 7-year cycle with music. Or something where it's like rock is the foundation and then pop is the foundation and then it's something like that. Then rock comes back. I will say, I think rock is coming back, or at least guitar bass is coming back, because you even see it in hip hop now. Like the new hip hop kids, the younger generation, they are kind of doing like an emo rock.
Like the Tyler, the Creator, not there, I'm trying to promote it, but he is actually learning guitar. And he's going to integrate guitar into his next set of music, which kind of is like where things are. Because that's the kind of thing that seems to be going on. That there, you see this with a lot of Kendrick Lamar. He has awesome bass on stage when he plays. He has really good bass players. And I think, I've talked to a lot of indie rock bands because I talk to like, all different types of musicians, and there's a lot of like bands on SoundCloud and YouTube that are doing stuff, but MTV doesn't play the videos like they used to. Where YouTube has it, and you have these different places like Vimeo, you have Vivo, you have all these different places. But I see rock isn't dead. There's a lot of indie rock bands that are really good. They're really good. They're just not catching fire because they're not getting the hype that hip hop and rap and electronic music is getting, but they're there and they're working. And so I think it is a cycle. I think it's going to come back. You're going to get like a Kurt Cobain again, or you're going to get an Eddie Vedder, somebody that has a personality that maybe just pushes it. you know.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. But I will say that it's going to have to be a blending. I don't think it's going to be a typical bands necessarily are going to be the thing anymore.
Yeah.
The guitar as the bass instrument, or the signature instrument is going to come back, and kind of the grungy emotional music is back. But I think there is still going to be a hip hop pop in there. And I think bands maybe we'll have to start going like the 21 Pilots route, or something like
You
that.
get a lot of hybrid bands like that. That 21 Pilots is kind of like that idea.
Yeah, because I think that's what's gonna sell or make it. But yeah, I think it's coming back. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been this kind of. I'm a kind of a punk guy, so there's always going to be like room for punk bands that will just be pure punk, hardcore punk, hardcore metal. They're going to stay in their zone. They might not get a Def Leppard or a Guns N' Roses or a Clash level band breaking through, but they're going to be there in their lane.
Have their cult following.
I'm always hoping, like, when's the next Clash going to come? Because I'm always looking for that, because I'm a kind of purist when it comes to that kind of punk. But that's like energy. I love the energy of that, because the thing about punk is like it gets very expressive. You can go all different directions, and you can do all kinds of. You can talk about anything, and the Clash kind of was all over the map, and that was a really cool idea that you could be in a lane and just be mixing. They mixed all kinds of things. They mixed like reggae and rock and ska, and that's interesting when you get a band that is willing to go there.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing, man. That's good that you're a purist. We need the purists, because without the purists, you don't have the
Well, you got I'm listening to Sun Ra. And I'm listening to Coltrane and stuff, so I want to bring that into my music. I want to mix things together. You see, when I always feel that, like, what you're doing, like when you mix genres together, that you come out with something new. If you mix hip hop with pop, then you get something that's exciting. You mix a little hardcore rock into it, you throw a little punk into it, then it just gives you something new.
Yeah, new, and it's reminiscent. I think people love the nostalgia of it. It's like, oh man, we got this hip hop thing, and we also got, it's like sensory overload.
Yeah.
I mean, probably my favorite songs ever are like that. They're hybrid genre type stuff. So that's kind of what I'm always the more success I have, I'll have more opportunities to kind of do exactly what I want to do. And with that, you'll start to see a lot of kind of like rock mixed with R&B and just weird stuff that you don't see a lot of women doing necessarily.
Yeah, we get the stagecraft, like Lady Gaga had like a David Bowie like stagecraft. She kind of presents herself in the kind of way Bowie-esque way of creating.
She totally does.
I love that. I love people like that do that kind of Freddie Mercury thing, because if when you're the lead singer of a band, Bowie was like, basically, I play characters, but I'm like, it's a performance. It's an art, I change these images, but he was like an actor, and he believed in the show. You got guys that used to believe in that, like Prince, Freddie Mercury. You guys, they get on stage and they just boom, they own the stage, because that's the kind of musicianship or character, or just somebody becomes iconic, in music, and you're always looking like who's going to be the next Lady Gaga, who's going to be the next Axl Rose, who's going to be able to have that kind of character that just draws people in.
Yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, you're right. It's the icons are the ones who have a totally separate personality, probably from their real
well, it's just your
selves.
stage. You got to own the stage. Every part of this, being a musician is to kind of be able to create that persona on stage that gets people to draw, to like focus on you. So it's about the music, but it's also how you present that music. And if you can have stagecraft is like really big part of being, a professional. Like if you bring that to the stage, you bring that character, then people, start to identify. It might not be you, it might be what you put on, but.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that that's part of the joy, like, honestly, for those of us who are artists and performers, part of the reason we are is because we want a little bit of an escape,
Yeah.
like you want to be somebody different for a second and forget about everything. And that's part of why I think people become what they become. And I think it's kind of cool in a way. There's a lot of
Yeah,
psychology
but
with
I think
that, but
go on stage, you're able to kind of show things that maybe, really, and like, wow, they reveal things on stage that they wouldn't reveal to like anybody.
yeah, they never have to talk about it
Yeah,
again.
and it's just there, and it's just like, wow, and they're able to call on it, but then they don't. If you want to talk to in an interview, they don't want to talk about it because it's like, cause it is
Right.
there. If we already showed you what it is, we don't want to get into it anymore. The artist already showed you in
Right.
the song, showed you in the performance. So
It's powerful, man. That's like, I always go back to Kurt Cobain when people were begging him, what do the lyrics mean? He was like, I'm not
no,
telling you.
like real artists, like Dylan. People try to ask him about stuff, and he's like, I can't tell you about that. It is what it is,
And I feel that way too. I've had people do that, and I feel like, come on, just let it be. I mean, when I grew up listening to music and fell in love with it, I liked that whatever I was listening to, I could apply to my own life, or
Yeah.
I could,
You interpret, the fans will interpret things, and the artist put it out there. You have your vision as an artist, what you think it is. But then, how a fan feels it is maybe different. So they can own that. The fans can own their interpretation of your work. And then you have your own feelings that created it, and so you have your own kind of, every song is kind of like, like a lot of people would say their songs are like their children. And then it's
yes.
like you have different feelings about how that got created or how that was born. How that song was born is very, very special to almost every artist. They can go into like why, how it came about. Maybe they don't want to go into why, but like
Yeah.
how it came about, they might want to talk about that. But
yeah, please. Yeah, I totally understand that.
yeah, so that's cool. So are you good for time, or we should put a wrap on it? 'Cause I think we're at the 30-minute point.
I could probably do like another
Okay.
5.
Well, yeah, we'll just like, maybe we can do you have any coming up, new shows coming up, or new projects that are going to be out for your fans that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so we had a meeting about this yesterday. So my EP will officially be out in early April. It's called Know Better, with an X over the W. It's kind of like, the whole theme of it is, I know better, but I'm no better than anybody else. Like, everybody learns things in a different time period of life, because a lot of these songs I've actually been working on for 10 years.
Wow.
And the reason for that is because I was on an indie label that crashed and burned. I kind of got scammed and screwed over by a lot of people. Had to re-record a lot of things, had to totally revamp. So that's kind of a theme there too, is like, the lessons I've learned in the industry. Oh, this is what it is. I just remembered. So it's, I know better, so therefore I am now better, but I'm still no better than anybody else. That's the whole, there's a parentheses around the K. And then there's an X through the W, so that it can exemplify those
So
three
it's an
meanings.
EP, or
It's an EP. It'll be out in early April, and I'm going to release probably 2 singles before that. And maybe a little video and a few different things, but it's been a super long journey to get to this point. So yeah, we're excited about it. It was entirely produced by the Half Style. He's a really cool, he kind of created the whole urban pop, man. That guy he's a genius with what he does.
So are you going to tour?
I want to tour. Me and my manager are trying to set that up. He's been talking to a lot of different booking agencies and tour managers. And so we're trying to get that set up. But realistically, an actual tour probably wouldn't happen until next summer. But I'll definitely be doing, I don't have any show dates right now, which is kind of rare because usually I do. But at the moment, I don't have any show dates right this second. Are you going to
be pushing any like YouTube videos or anything for the record?
Yes. Actually, what I have out right now is a little remix that I did to ZZ, which is a popular song by Travis Scott and Kodak Black. So I've been pushing that a little bit. And then my most recent single, Start a Fire, I've been pushing that a lot too. It's on a few different Spotify playlists.
Cool.
And yeah, definitely
We're
check that
definitely,
out.
yeah.
If anybody who's listening, definitely check that out. Find me on Instagram. It's MOLLIEJAY. So it's very simple.
Yeah, we're definitely, what we're going to do is we're going to push this out to our Instagram, and we have a Facebook, and we have a Twitter. So what we tend to do is Spotify has an ability to actually take these episodes and link them to Instagram. So we can do a highlight on Instagram that allows people to click the highlight in Instagram and actually go right to the podcast. So we will be pushing that on our Instagram. We've got two of them: Josephine Electric, my alter ego, and my expansive sound experiment. Because I actually do a female voice to a voiceoder. I actually created a character.
Really, that's amazing. Actually,
the lead singer of my band is me. I use all kinds of. I use voicecoders in a way that I haven't really seen anybody do since probably Prince with his Bob George and Camille characters is where I came up with the idea. That he actually used to do female and male characters with synthesizers, and I decided to do that myself. But so I have a separate Instagram that we'll be pushing this on the Josephine Electric and the Expansive Sound Experiment one, and we'll send you the links, and then when you see it, we'll include you as some of the people that are on the link. Will be Spotify and Anchor, but you'll see it later tonight, and then you can run it with your own social network once we send you the links.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, as soon as your album comes out, we tend to have people come back multiple times. We've talked to bands 2-3 times in the last 2 years, usually based on when they have material or albums or tours. So yeah, once your record's out, if you feel free to let us know. And if you want to actually do a song by song talk about it, and we did that with Kendra Black from New York City. We just did that with her album like last week. We had a session where we talked like every song. We actually went through every song on the record.
I'd love that.
Yeah,
I would
so we do that, and just let us know when you're ready to do that, and we can do it.
Okay, I'm in early April.
Okay,
Let's do
great.
it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so
night.
much. Talk soon.
This is Family Electric Ghost, and we're working with Natural X, who is a distributor and manufacturer of CBD oil. Now, you shouldn't settle for inferior CBD oil. Natural X is not an inferior CBD oil. It is the superior CBD oil. There are no additive chemicals. It's available in all 50 states. It's water soluble. It's high absorbing, full spectrum CBD with terpenes. Now, the difference between THC and CBD, you might not know. So THC is a psychoactive portion of cannabis and is commonly found in marijuana in higher amounts and is very low, if any, in the hemp plant. CBD is a cannabinoid devoid of psychoactive effect. In other words, you can't get high from CBD. After THC, CBD is by far the most studied natural cannabinoid and is gaining popularity faster than THC because of its healthy properties without drug side effects attached to it. So if you click on the link that we're going to provide in a couple minutes, you'd be able to get this really good CBD. So why would you take Natural X CBD? Well, it's the most stable, longest lasting, highest absorbing CBD. It's fast. It's got 15-minute absorption rather than slow 60 to 90-minute peaks. It's the highest absorption rate in the industry. It's real CBD oil, not liposomes or nanoparticles. It's got a super long shelf life, can store for 2 years, no need for refrigeration. It's made from hemp, not marijuana. It's clean, healthy, organic hemp, sourced from the best farms. It's full spectrum, top quality hemp CBD, not cheap CBD isolates. Enjoy the healthy entourage effects of full spectrum CBD oil. It's not addictive, and there's no psychedelic drug effects. It's available, as we said, in all 50 states. easy to use, to swallow a little every day. Tastes great, no disgusting, oily, bitter taste. Best value in hemp CBD, you get more usable CBD for your money. You save money by purchasing today with the special pricing from Natural X. It's proudly made in the USA, and there are no worries because you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you click our link, we've got a bit.ly link to make it easier for you. So the link that you use to be able to purchase this is bit.ly/2SV small b capital H V W. So let's do that again. It's bit.ly/2 capital S capital V lowercase b capital H lowercase b lowercase w. And we'll do that once more. It's bit.ly/2S capital V lowercase b capital H lowercase v w. Now this link is also on the podcast, so if you can't get it from here, just look at the podcast. You'll see the link there, and you can just click on it. And I hope you enjoy this product, and we'll talk to you again. Keep on listening to the Family Electric Go Show, because we talk about all kinds of things, and you'll be able to get information about all types of products like this product from Natural X, their Natural X CBD. Thank you.